The premise is deceptively simple. Hijackers seize control of the Ocean Majesty, a floating palace of indulgence cutting through the azure waters of the Mediterranean. They believe they've accounted for every variable, every potential threat. They've studied the ship's manifest, its security protocols, its passenger list teeming with the oblivious elite, ripe for extortion. What they don't know, what couldn't possibly appear in any database or security briefing, is the unassuming presence of Ben. Ben isn't listed as security personnel, isn't flaunting a weapon, isn't mingling with the glamorous crowd on the Lido deck. He's below decks, a ghost in the machine, diligently mopping up spilled cocktails and scrubbing away the remnants of lavish dinners. He's a cleaner, practically invisible, a cog in the vast, luxurious machine that is the Ocean Majesty. The ship itself is a character, a microcosm of society stratified by wealth and privilege. Imagine sprawling suites with private balconies overlooking the endless horizon, casinos shimmering with the clatter of chips and the murmur of high-stakes bets, gourmet restaurants serving delicacies flown in from around the globe. Picture a world of champagne wishes and caviar dreams, where the anxieties of the real world seem impossibly distant. The passengers are a carefully curated collection of the ultra-rich. Oil tycoons, tech moguls, celebrities escaping the relentless glare of the paparazzi, and aging socialites clinging to the vestiges of their fading glamour that they're shielded by layers of security, pampered by an army of staff, and utterly confident in their invulnerability. They believe, perhaps naively, that their wealth is a shield against any and all harm, but the Ocean Majesty, for all its opulent facade, is a closed ecosystem, vulnerable to intrusion, and tonight, that vulnerability will be brutally exposed. The hijackers aren't petty criminals or desperate refugees. They are a highly trained, ruthlessly efficient force motivated by greed and led by a figure known only as Silva. They've planned this operation meticulously, exploiting weaknesses in the ship's security and coordinating their attack with chilling precision. They are about to shatter the illusion of safety and plunge the Ocean Majesty into a nightmare. The clock is ticking, and the lives of everyone on board hang in the balance, all unbeknownst to the elites enjoying their voyage. Only Ben, with his mop and bucket, stands between them and utter chaos, his past a secret weapon waiting to be unleashed. Now, let's pull back the curtain on Ben, the linchpin of our story, the silent guardian lurking in the shadows of the Ocean Majesty. He's not your typical action hero, bursting with bravado and clad in tactical gear. He's deliberately unremarkable, blending seamlessly into the background, a face easily forgotten amidst the throngs of crew members attending to the whims of the wealthy. He's the quiet guy who always nods politely, the one who never complains, the one you barely notice. But beneath the surface of this unassuming demeanor lies a past meticulously concealed, a history etched in scars both visible and invisible. There are glimpses, fleeting moments that hint at the truth. The way he moves with an economy of motion, a subtle grace that betrays years of training, the unnerving stillness in his eyes when he observes a potential threat, a focused intensity that belies his humble occupation. The calloused hands, strong and capable, that grip a mop handle with the same precision they once wielded a weapon. He speaks sparingly, his voice a low murmur that barely registers above the hum of the ship's engines. He avoids eye contact, preferring to remain in the periphery, a silent observer of the unfolding drama. His cabin is Spartan, devoid of personal touches, containing only the bare necessities. There are no photographs, no mementos, no clues to his past life. He's a man who has deliberately erased his identity, seeking refuge in anonymity. Maria, a young waitress on the Lido deck, is one of the few who has noticed something different about Ben. She's seen him defuse a tense situation between two drunken passengers with a quiet word and a disarming smile. She's observed his uncanny ability to anticipate problems before they arise, to be in the right place at the right time. She sensed a deep sadness in his eyes, a hidden pain that he keeps carefully guarded. She suspects that he's running from something, that his past is catching up to him. One evening, while cleaning up after a particularly raucous party, Ben displays an unusual dexterity while catching a falling tray. Miguel, an older Filipino maintenance worker, mutters, "Agility like that only comes from training. Special training," before excusing himself. Ben simply continues mopping. He is a man of contradictions, a paradox wrapped in a simple uniform. He's a cleaner who knows how to kill, a pacifist haunted by violence, a ghost seeking redemption. He's the Ocean Majesty's secret weapon, the unlikely hero who will rise to defend the innocent when the time comes. But for now, he remains hidden, a silent observer, waiting for the storm to break. The illusion of tranquility shatters with brutal efficiency. The hijackers, led by Silva, strike with a coordinated assault that overwhelms the ship's meager security. It begins subtly. A few men in seemingly innocuous crew uniforms appearing at strategic locations, their faces grim, their eyes scanning for resistance. Then, the controlled chaos erupts. The bridge is their first target. Silva, a man with a cold, calculating gaze and an air of quiet menace, leads the charge. The captain, caught completely off guard, barely has time to react before a gun is pressed against his temple. The ship's officers are quickly subdued, their radios silenced, their access to the outside world severed. The Ocean Majesty is now adrift, cut off from civilization, a floating prison controlled by ruthless captors. Simultaneously, other members of Silva's team seize control of key areas. The engine room, the communications hub, the security control center. They move with practiced precision, disabling alarms, cutting off surveillance cameras, and establishing a secure perimeter. They are professionals, well-trained and utterly devoid of empathy. The initial disruption is masked by the ship's ambient noise. The gentle hum of the engines, the clinking of glasses in the bars, the laughter emanating from the casino. Passengers are blissfully unaware of the impending danger, continuing their vacations in blissful ignorance. Then, the announcement comes, broadcast over the ship's public address system. Silva's voice, amplified and distorted, booms through the corridors. Shattering the illusion of safety, he declares that the Ocean Majesty is now under their control, that all passengers are to remain in their cabins, and that any resistance will be met with swift and brutal force. Panic begins to spread like wildfire. Passengers scramble for cover, their initial disbelief giving way to terror. The opulent hallways, once symbols of luxury and security, now become pathways to potential danger. The world of champagne wishes and caviar dreams is replaced by a stark reality of fear and uncertainty. Below decks, Ben hears the announcement with a grim sense of inevitability. The subtle shifts in the ship's atmosphere, the hushed whispers among the crew, the increased security presence, he had sensed that something was amiss. Now, his suspicions are confirmed. The storm has broken. He knows that his past, the skills he had tried so hard to bury, will now be needed to protect the innocent. He takes a deep breath, steeling himself for the fight ahead. The mop and bucket are discarded. The cleaner is gone. His place emerges. A warrior, ready to confront the darkness that has descended upon the Ocean Majesty. Silva's announcement is followed by a chilling silence, broken only by the muffled sobs of frightened passengers. Then, the demands are made clear. A ransom, a sum so exorbitant it seems almost mythical, is to be delivered within 24 hours. The amount is specified in euros, wired to a series of untraceable offshore accounts. Silva provides the details with a cold, detached precision, as if he were ordering room service. The threat is implicit but unmistakable. For every hour the ransom is delayed, for every attempt to contact the authorities, for every act of defiance, passengers will pay the price. Silva doesn't spell it out, doesn't need to. His reputation precedes him. He is known for his ruthlessness, his willingness to sacrifice innocent lives to achieve his goals. He is a man who operates outside the bounds of morality, a predator who sees human beings as mere pawns in his twisted game. To emphasize their power, the hijackers begin a systematic lockdown of the ship. Armed guards patrol the corridors, their faces hidden behind masks, their weapons held at the ready. They force passengers from their cabins, herding them into the main ballroom, a vast, opulent space now transformed into a makeshift prison. The elderly struggle to keep up, children cry for their parents, and the wealthy elite are stripped of their illusions of control. Communication with the outside world is completely cut off. The ship's satellite phones are disabled, the internet is shut down, and any attempt to use a personal device is met with immediate and violent reprisal. The Ocean Majesty is now a black site, a floating island of terror isolated from the rest of the world. As the hours tick by, tension mounts. The passengers are hungry, thirsty, and terrified. The hijackers provide minimal food and water, treating them with contempt and disdain. Small acts of kindness and defiance emerge. A shared sandwich, a whispered word of encouragement, a silent act of resistance. But these are fleeting moments of hope in a sea of despair. Below decks, Ben is formulating his plan. He knows that time is running out. He needs to find a way to disrupt the hijackers' operation, to create chaos and confusion, to give the passengers a chance to fight back. He begins to move. Through the ship's labyrinthine corridors, a shadow in the darkness, gathering information, assessing the enemy's strengths and weaknesses, and preparing to strike. He knows that he is outnumbered and outgunned. But he also knows that he has a unique advantage. His knowledge of the ship, his hidden skills, and his unwavering determination to protect the innocent. The ransom demand has been made, and now the real game begins. Within the crowded ballroom, a microcosm of the ship itself, individual. Stories of fear and resilience begin to unfold. Let's focus on a few key figures trapped in this terrifying ordeal. First, there's the Harding family. John, a successful but weary businessman, his wife, Susan, a former lawyer, and their teenage daughter, Emily, glued to her phone until it was confiscated. John is racked with guilt, having booked this cruise as a way to reconnect with his family, a last-ditch effort to salvage their strained relationships. Now, he feels responsible for putting them in harm's way. Susan, ever the pragmatist, tries to maintain a calm facade, secretly assessing their chances of survival. Emily, initially rebellious and withdrawn, finds herself unexpectedly drawn closer to her parents, realizing the fragility of life and the importance of family. Then there's Colonel Richard Davies, a retired military officer, a veteran of countless conflicts. He is a man of discipline and courage, but his age is beginning to catch up with him. He observes the hijackers with a trained eye, noticing their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities. He knows that he can't stand idly by while innocent lives are at stake. He starts subtly organizing the other passengers, encouraging them to remain calm, to conserve their resources, and to be ready to act when the opportunity arises. He becomes a beacon of hope in the darkness, a symbol of resistance against the oppressors. And finally, there's Sarah Jenkins, a young, ambitious journalist, on assignment to cover the lives of the ultra-rich. She is quick-witted and resourceful, with a keen eye for detail. She secretly documents the events unfolding around her, using a hidden camera to record the hijackers' actions and the passengers' reactions. She knows that this story could make her career, but she also knows that it could cost her her life. She wrestles with her conscience, torn between her journalistic instincts and her moral obligation to help the other passengers. These are just a few of the individuals caught in the crosshairs of this crisis. Their lives are irrevocably changed by the events unfolding on the Ocean Majesty. Their stories intertwine. Their fates are interconnected, and their collective response to this terrifying ordeal will determine the outcome of the crisis as the hours pass. Their fear gives way to a growing sense of determination, a resolve to survive, to fight back, and to reclaim their lives. The hijackers may control the ship, but they don't control their spirits. While the passengers in the ballroom endure their captivity, Ben moves silently through the bowels of the ship, a ghost in the machine. His face is grim, his eyes focused, his senses heightened. The fear and desperation that permeate the air do not paralyze him. They fuel his determination. He revisits the engine room, familiarizing himself with the layout, the critical systems, the potential vulnerabilities. He notes the number of guards, their patrol patterns, their communication methods. He sees opportunities for disruption, for sabotage, for creating chaos. He then moves to the security control center, now occupied by Silva's men. He observes them from a hidden vantage point, studying their routines, their weaknesses. He sees that they are overconfident, complacent, lulled into a false sense of security by their initial success. He knows that this arrogance will be their undoing. He slips into the ship's ventilation system, navigating the narrow, dusty tunnels with ease. He knows every inch of this ship, every hidden passage, every secret compartment. He uses this knowledge to his advantage, moving unseen, unheard, like a phantom as he moves. Flashes of his past flicker through his mind. Images of a different life. A life filled with violence and loss. He remembers the training, the discipline, the sacrifices he made. He remembers the faces of those he failed to protect. These memories serve as a constant reminder of what is at stake, of why he must act. He recalls a specific mission, years ago, where he had to infiltrate a heavily guarded compound to rescue a group of hostages. The mission was a success, but it came at a heavy cost. He lost comrades, he witnessed atrocities, and he was left with scars that will never heal. He vowed to never again allow innocent people to suffer. Now that vow is being tested. He knows that he is the only one who can stop Silva and his men. He is the only one who can protect the passengers of the Ocean Majesty. He embraces his past, his training, his skills. He is no longer a cleaner. He is a protector, a warrior, a force to be reckoned with. He finds a secluded storage room and gathers the tools he needs. A length of rope, a wrench, a fire extinguisher. He modifies them, transforming them into weapons. He is resourceful and adaptable, able to turn ordinary objects into instruments of destruction. He is ready to fight. The time for planning is over. The time for action has come. Ben is ready to make his move. The hijackers, emboldened by their initial success, begin to tighten their grip on the Ocean Majesty. They establish a strict regime of control, enforcing their rules with an iron fist. The atmosphere on the ship becomes increasingly oppressive, the air thick with fear and tension. Armed guards patrol the corridors, their presence a constant reminder of the passengers' captivity. They conduct random searches, confiscating personal belongings and harassing anyone who dares to defy their authority. They are brutal and unforgiving, showing no mercy to the elderly, the sick, or the children. In the ballroom, conditions deteriorate rapidly. Food and water are scarce, sanitation is poor, and the air is thick with the stench of sweat and despair. The passengers are crammed together like cattle, their dignity stripped away, their spirits crushed. Silva, the mastermind behind the operation, makes occasional appearances in the ballroom, his presence sending shivers down the spines of the captives. He delivers chilling pronouncements, reminding them of the consequences of disobedience and reinforcing his absolute control. He seems to relish their fear, deriving pleasure from their suffering. One young passenger, a college student named David, attempts to use his cell phone to contact the authorities. He is quickly apprehended by the guards and dragged before Silva in a chilling display of brutality. Silva smashes the phone with his boot and then orders his men to publicly flog David. The other passengers are forced to watch in horror as David is beaten mercilessly, his cries of pain echoing through the ballroom. The incident serves as a stark warning to anyone contemplating resistance. The hijackers are willing to use extreme violence to maintain their control. Hope dwindles, and despair deepens. Colonel Davies, despite his age and physical limitations, continues to rally the other passengers. He whispers words of encouragement, reminding them of their strength, their resilience, their humanity. He organizes small acts of defiance, providing comfort to the sick, sharing food with the hungry, and offering words of solace to the grieving. Sarah Jenkins, the journalist, continues to document the events unfolding around her, risking her life to capture evidence of the hijackers' brutality. She knows that her footage could be crucial in bringing them to justice. The Ocean Majesty has become a living hell, a microcosm of humanity at its worst. But even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can endure, and the hope for freedom can never be completely extinguished. The passengers may be captives, but they are not broken. They are waiting for a sign, a spark, a chance to fight back. In the labyrinthine corridors below deck, Ben encounters Maria, the young waitress who had previously sensed his hidden depths. She is terrified, but her eyes hold a spark of defiance. She recognizes the change in Ben, the quiet determination that has replaced his usual reticence. They're monsters. She whispers, her voice trembling. They're hurting people. You have to do something. Ben nods, his expression grim. I will, he says. But I need your help. Maria, without hesitation, agrees to assist him. She knows the ship well, perhaps even better than Ben. She has access to areas he cannot reach, and she can gather information without arousing suspicion. She tells him about the hijackers' communication network, their supply routes, their security blind spots. She reveals that Silva is obsessed with a particular painting in the ship's art collection, a priceless masterpiece that he intends to steal after receiving the ransom. She also informs him that the ship's security system has a hidden override, a failsafe that can be activated from a specific location in the engine room. If they can gain access to that override, they can disable the ship's alarms, unlock the doors, and potentially cut off the hijackers' communication lines. Maria also provides Ben with a detailed map of the ship's ventilation system, revealing a network of hidden passages that could allow him to move undetected throughout the vessel. She warns him of the dangers of the guards who patrol the corridors, of the surveillance cameras that monitor every move. Be careful. She pleads, her eyes filled with concern. They will kill you without a second thought. Ben smiles grimly. I know, he says, but I have to try. He asks Maria to spread a message among the crew, urging them to remain calm, to be ready to assist him when the time comes. That he knows that he cannot do this alone. He needs their help, their courage, their willingness to risk their lives for the sake of the passengers. He also asks her to discreetly provide him with any weapons she can find. Knives, tools, anything that could be used to defend themselves. Maria agrees to do everything she can. She is no longer just a waitress. She is a resistance fighter, a key player in the battle for the Ocean Majesty. She and Ben form an unlikely alliance, a bond forged in the crucible of fear and desperation. Together, they will challenge the hijackers and fight for the freedom of the passengers. The wheels of Ben's plan are now firmly in motion, all thanks to Maria's assistance. Ben's covert operation begins with a calculated act of sabotage. Using his knowledge of the ship's electrical systems, he disables the surveillance cameras in a key section of the lower decks, creating a blind spot that allows him to move more freely. It's a small victory, but it's a start. His next target is the hijackers' communication network. Maria has provided him with the location of their primary radio relay station, a small, heavily guarded room near the engine room. He knows that if he can disable this relay, he can disrupt their ability to communicate with each other, sowing confusion and hindering their coordination. He approaches the relay station cautiously. Using the ventilation system to avoid detection, he observes the guards, studying their movements, their weaknesses. That he sees that they are bored, complacent, their attention wandering. He chooses his moment carefully as one of the guards steps away to relieve himself. Ben silently drops from the ventilation shaft, landing behind the remaining guard with a muffled thud. Before the guard can react, Ben silences him with a swift, precise strike to the neck. That he quickly disables the radio relay, cutting the wires, smashing the equipment, rendering it useless. He then disappears back into the ventilation system, leaving no trace of his presence. The hijackers are immediately alerted to the disruption in their communication network. They scramble to restore the connection, but they are unable to pinpoint the source of the problem. Paranoia begins to set in. They realize that someone is actively resisting them, someone who knows the ship well, someone who is capable of inflicting damage. Silva, furious at this unexpected challenge, orders a full search of the ship, vowing to find and eliminate the saboteur. He increases the number of guards, tightens security measures, and threatens to punish the passengers if the culprit is not found. The pressure on Ben intensifies. He knows that he is walking a tightrope. One wrong move could expose him and jeopardize his entire plan. But he refuses to be intimidated. He is determined to continue his covert operation, to chip away at the hijackers' control, to create opportunities for the passengers to fight back. He leaves a small calling card near the disabled radio relay. A single playing card, the Ace of Spades, a symbol of death and destruction. It's a message to Silva, a challenge, a declaration of war. Ben is playing for keeps, and he is not afraid to show his hand. The game has begun. The discovery of the Ace of Spades sends a ripple of fear through Silva's ranks. The hijackers, accustomed to operating with impunity, are unnerved by the presence of an unknown adversary. Their confidence begins to erode, replaced by a growing sense of paranoia. Silva, however, refuses to be intimidated. He is a seasoned veteran, hardened by years of conflict. He has faced far worse odds, and he is not about to be deterred by a single playing card. He vows to hunt down the saboteur and make an example of him, sending a clear message to anyone else contemplating resistance. He intensifies the search, deploying more guards, conducting more thorough searches, and interrogating crew members and passengers alike. He offers a reward for information leading to the capture of the saboteur, hoping to turn the passengers against each other. But Ben remains elusive, a ghost in the machine. He moves through the ship's shadows, avoiding detection, striking at opportune moments, and then disappearing without a trace. He is a master of stealth, a skilled combatant, and a resourceful strategist. He sabotages the ship's ventilation system, releasing noxious fumes into the corridors, forcing the hijackers to don gas masks and hindering their mobility. He disables the ship's water pumps, cutting off the water supply to the passenger cabins, creating discomfort and unrest. He uses his knowledge of the ship's electrical systems to create diversions, triggering false alarms, shutting down lights in key areas, and disrupting the ship's PA system. He is a one-man wrecking crew, wreaking havoc on the hijackers' operation. He also begins to subtly communicate with the passengers, leaving anonymous notes in strategic locations, offering words of encouragement, providing instructions for small acts of resistance. He is a beacon of hope in the darkness, inspiring the passengers to fight back. Colonel Davies, recognizing Ben's efforts, begins to coordinate the passengers' resistance. He organizes small groups to disrupt the hijackers' patrols, to sabotage their equipment, and to provide assistance to those in need. Sarah Jenkins, the journalist, uses her hidden camera to document Ben's actions, capturing footage of his bravery and his skill. She knows that this footage could be crucial in galvanizing public opinion and bringing pressure on the authorities to intervene. The Ocean Majesty has become a battleground, a scene of covert warfare between Ben and the hijackers. The fate of the passengers hangs in the balance, dependent on the outcome of this deadly game of cat and mouse. The fragile hope that Ben has kindled among the passengers is brutally extinguished. A young father, desperate to secure medicine for his sick child, attempts to plead with one of the guards. He is met with indifference, and then, when he persists with violence, the guard, a hulking brute with a sadistic streak, shoves the father to the ground and begins to beat him mercilessly. The other passengers cry out in protest, but their pleas are ignored. Silva, alerted to the disturbance, arrives on the scene, his face a mask of cold fury that he surveys the scene with disdain. His eyes lingering on the terrified faces of the passengers. He sees an opportunity to reinforce his authority, to crush any remaining vestiges of resistance. He orders his men to drag the father to the center of the ballroom and to publicly execute him. The passengers gasp in horror, their faces etched with disbelief. Even the hardened veterans among them are shocked by the sheer brutality of the act. The father, despite his injuries, refuses to beg for mercy. He looks Silva in the eye and spits in his face. Silva, enraged by this act of defiance, signals to his men. The father is forced to his knees, and a hood is placed over his head. A hush falls over the ballroom as the executioner raises his weapon. A single gunshot rings out, shattering the silence. The father slumps to the ground, his life extinguished in an instant. The passengers erupt in cries of anguish, their grief mingling with fear and despair. The execution serves as a stark reminder of the hijackers' ruthlessness, of their willingness to sacrifice innocent lives to maintain their control. The incident has a profound impact on Ben. He witnesses the execution from a hidden vantage point. His heart filled with rage and sorrow, he realizes that he can no longer afford to wait, to plan, to strategize. He must act now, before more innocent lives are lost. He accelerates his plans, abandoning his cautious approach in favor of a more aggressive strategy. He knows that he is taking a greater risk, but he is willing to sacrifice himself to save the passengers. He contacts Maria, urging her to expedite the delivery of weapons and to prepare the crew for action. He informs Colonel Davies of his intentions, asking for his assistance in coordinating the passengers' resistance. The execution has been a catalyst, a turning point in the battle for the Ocean Majesty. Ben is ready to unleash his full potential, to wage a war against the hijackers, to reclaim the ship and free the passengers from their captivity. The time for stealth is over. The time for action has arrived. Ben becomes a whirlwind of lethal efficiency. He systematically targets key members of Silva's crew, using his skills in stealth and hand-to-hand combat to eliminate them one by one. He moves through the ship's shadows, a silent predator, leaving no trace of his presence. His first target is the hulking guard who murdered the father. Ben finds him patrolling a deserted corridor. Lost in thought, he approaches him from behind, silently, and delivers a swift, precise blow to the neck, severing his spinal cord. The guard collapses to the ground, his eyes wide with surprise, his life extinguished in an instant. Ben then targets the hijackers stationed in the engine room, the ones guarding the security system override that he uses his knowledge of the ship's layout to bypass their security measures. Slipping into the engine room. Undetected, he disables the lights, plunging the engine room into darkness. The hijackers, disoriented and panicked, scramble to react. Ben uses the darkness to his advantage, moving with lightning speed. Taking them down one by one, he uses his bare hands, his makeshift weapons. Anything he can find to inflict maximum damage. He is a force of nature. A relentless killing machine, he shows no mercy, no remorse. He is driven by a single purpose: to protect the innocent and to bring justice to the guilty. As the hijackers fall, their paranoia intensifies. They realize that they are facing an enemy unlike any they have ever encountered. They are no longer in control. They are being hunted, stalked, and eliminated by a ghost. Silva, desperate to regain control, orders his men to lock down the ship, to seal off all the exits, to hunt down and kill the saboteur at all costs. He promises them riches, rewards, anything to motivate them to succeed. But it is too late. Ben has already sown chaos and discord among their ranks. The hijackers are divided, fearful, and increasingly disorganized. They are losing their grip on the Ocean Majesty. Maria, meanwhile, has been busy distributing weapons to the crew and passengers. Knives, wrenches, fire extinguishers, anything that can be used to defend themselves. She has also been spreading Ben's message of hope and resistance, inspiring them to fight back. Colonel Davies, coordinating the passengers' resistance, prepares them for the final assault. He organizes them into small groups, assigning them specific tasks, providing them with instructions on how to defend themselves. The Ocean Majesty is poised on the brink of a full-scale rebellion. The hijackers are outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and outgunned. Their reign of terror is about to come to an end. The ransom deadline is rapidly approaching, but Silva's carefully laid plans are crumbling around him. His communication network is in tatters. His men are disappearing, and the passengers are on the verge of open revolt. He knows that he needs to act decisively to regain control. He orders his remaining men to converge on the engine room, the location of the security system override. He suspects that this is Ben's next target, and he is determined to prevent him from gaining access to it. He also orders a full lockdown of the ship, sealing off all the exits and deploying guards to every corner of the vessel. That he vows to find Ben and kill him, no matter the cost. The pressure on Ben intensifies. He knows that he is running out of time. He needs to reach the engine room, activate the security system override, and unleash the passengers' rebellion. He moves through the ship's corridors, evading the guards, utilizing his skills in stealth and deception. He is a master of improvisation, using anything he can find to his advantage. A fire hose to create a diversion, a serving cart to block a doorway, a broken mirror to blind an opponent. He encounters Maria, who informs him that Silva is heading towards the engine room with his remaining men. She also tells him that Colonel Davies and the passengers are ready to launch their assault, but they are waiting for his signal. Ben knows that he must confront Silva. He cannot allow him to reach the engine room and regain control of the ship. He prepares for the final showdown. Knowing that it will be a fight to the death, he arms himself with his makeshift weapons: a wrench, a knife, and a fire extinguisher filled with a blinding irritant. He takes a deep breath, steeling himself for the battle ahead. He knows that he is outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. But he also knows that he has a unique advantage: his knowledge of the ship, his skills in combat, and his unwavering determination to protect the innocent. He is ready to face Silva, to confront his demons, and to reclaim the Ocean Majesty. The final act is about to begin. The fate of the passengers, the fate of the ship, hangs in the balance. The engine room is a cacophony of noise and heat, a labyrinth of pipes and machinery. Silva, accompanied by his remaining men, storms into the room, his eyes scanning for any sign of Ben. Ben is waiting for him, hidden in the shadows, his senses heightened, his body coiled like a spring. He knows that this is his moment, his chance to end this nightmare. Silva barks orders at his men, instructing them to secure the security system override and to search for Ben. The hijackers spread out, their weapons raised, their eyes darting nervously. Ben uses the chaos to his advantage, slipping through the shadows, avoiding detection. He targets the hijackers one by one, using his skills in stealth and hand-to-hand combat to eliminate them silently. He disables the lights, plunging the engine room into darkness. The hijackers, disoriented and panicked, fire blindly into the darkness, their bullets ricocheting off the metal walls. Ben uses the darkness to his advantage, moving with lightning speed, striking at opportune moments, and then disappearing without a trace. He is a phantom, a force of nature, a relentless killing machine. Silva, realizing that he is losing control, becomes increasingly desperate. He orders his men to use grenades to flush Ben out of hiding. But Ben is too quick, too agile, too skilled. He evades the explosions, using the pipes and machinery as cover. He knows the engine room like the back of his hand, and he uses his knowledge to his advantage. Finally, Ben confronts Silva. The two men face each other in the heart of the engine room, their eyes locked in a deadly stare. Silva raises his weapon, a high-powered assault rifle, and fires a volley of bullets at Ben. Ben dives for cover, narrowly avoiding the bullets. He then throws his fire extinguisher, dousing Silva in a blinding irritant. Silva cries out in pain, his eyes burning, his vision obscured. Ben seizes the opportunity, charging towards Silva. His wrench raised high, he swings the wrench with all his might, striking Silva in the head. Silva collapses to the ground, unconscious. Ben stands over him, his chest heaving, his body trembling. He is won. He has defeated Silva. The engine room falls silent, save for the hum of the machinery and Ben's ragged breathing. But Ben knows the fight is far from over. He grabs Silva's weapon. He needs to activate the override and signal Colonel Davies as Ben stands over the unconscious Silva. The remaining hijackers, alerted to their leader's defeat, converge on the engine room. The final battle is about to erupt. Before the onslaught begins, Silva, regaining consciousness, looks up at Ben, his face contorted with rage and hatred. "You think you've won?" he rasps, his voice weak but menacing. "You have no idea what's coming." Ben stares down at Silva, his expression grim. He knows that the remaining hijackers will stop at nothing to avenge their leader and reclaim the ship. "Why are you doing this?" Silva asks, his voice filled with incredulity. "Why are you risking your life for these people? They're nothing to you." Ben hesitates for a moment, his eyes clouding with memories of the past. He sees the faces of those he has failed to protect, the innocent victims of violence and oppression. "Because everyone deserves a chance," Ben replies, his voice low but firm. "Everyone deserves to be safe." He reveals a glimpse of his past, a life filled with violence and loss. He tells Silva about his time as a soldier, fighting in a war that he no longer believed in. He tells him about the innocent civilians who were caught in the crossfire, the women and children who were killed by senseless violence. He tells him about the mission that changed his life, the mission where he was ordered to kill a group of unarmed civilians. He refused to obey the order, but it was too late. The damage had been done. He had witnessed too much death, too much suffering. He vowed to never again allow innocent people to suffer. He left the army, seeking a life of peace and anonymity. He became a cleaner, hoping to erase his past, to find redemption. But his past has come back to haunt him. He cannot stand idly by while innocent people are being threatened, while their lives are being taken away. He must use his skills, his training, his knowledge to protect them, to give them a chance to survive. "I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do," Ben says, his voice filled with conviction. "I'm doing this because I have to live with myself." Silva scoffs, his eyes filled with contempt. "You're a fool," he says. "You can't save everyone." Ben knows that Silva is right. He cannot save everyone. But he can try. He can fight. He can give the passengers a chance to survive. He activates the security system override, triggering the ship's alarms and unlocking the doors. He then signals to Colonel Davies, unleashing the passengers' rebellion. The final battle for the Ocean Majesty has begun. The Ocean Majesty erupts into chaos. The alarms blare, the doors unlock, and the passengers, armed with their makeshift weapons, surge into the corridors. The crew, inspired by Maria's leadership, joins the fray, attacking the remaining hijackers with courage and determination. Ben, armed with Silva's assault rifle, leads the charge. Moving through the ship like a force of nature, he targets the hijackers, using his skills in combat to eliminate them with precision and efficiency. The passengers, emboldened by Ben's example, fight with ferocity, surprising the hijackers with their unexpected resistance. Colonel Davies, despite his age and physical limitations, directs the passengers' efforts, coordinating their attacks and providing them with support. Sarah Jenkins, the journalist, continues to document the events, capturing footage of the passengers' bravery and the hijackers' defeat. She knows that this story will be heard around the world. The fighting is intense and brutal, but the passengers and crew are determined to reclaim their ship. They fight for their lives, for their freedom, for their dignity. One by one, the hijackers fall, their resistance crumbling in the face of the passengers' overwhelming force. The Ocean Majesty is slowly but surely being liberated. Ben finally confronts the remaining hijackers in the main ballroom. The sight of so much suffering and despair, he faces them alone. A lone warrior against a force of evil, he fights with skill and courage, dodging bullets, deflecting blows, and eliminating his enemies with ruthless efficiency. He is a force to be reckoned with, a symbol of hope in the darkness. The remaining hijackers, realizing that they are outmatched, attempt to flee, but it is too late. The passengers and crew surround them, trapping them in the ballroom. Ben, with a final act of defiance, subdues the last of the hijackers, ending their reign of terror. The Ocean Majesty is finally free. The passengers erupt in cheers, their voices filled with joy and relief. They have survived the nightmare, they have reclaimed their ship, and they have emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. The Ocean Majesty has been restored to its crew and passengers. Ben surveys the scene, exhausted but satisfied. His mission is complete. As the Ocean Majesty limps towards the nearest port, the world learns of the harrowing events that transpired on board. Sarah Jenkins's footage is released, revealing the hijackers' brutality and the passengers' extraordinary courage. The story becomes an international sensation, captivating audiences around the globe. The authorities, alerted to the situation, dispatch a team of special forces to secure the ship and apprehend the surviving hijackers. They arrive in helicopters and speedboats, surrounding the Ocean Majesty and taking control of the situation. The surviving hijackers, defeated and demoralized, surrender without resistance. They are taken into custody and transported to a secure location, where they will face justice for their crimes. The passengers are finally safe, their ordeal over. They disembark from the Ocean Majesty, their faces etched with a mixture of relief, gratitude, and trauma. They are greeted by cheering crowds, flashing cameras, and tearful reunions with their loved ones. Colonel Davies is hailed as a hero, his leadership and courage inspiring the passengers to fight back. He basks in the attention, but he knows that the true hero of this story is someone else. Maria is also recognized for her bravery and her resourcefulness, her actions playing a crucial role in the passengers' liberation. She becomes a symbol of hope and resilience, her story inspiring people around the world. But Ben, the unassuming cleaner who saved the Ocean Majesty slips away unnoticed. He disappears back into the anonymity of the crew, shedding his heroic mantle and returning to his quiet, solitary existence. He knows that he cannot stay, that his past will always haunt him, that he will never truly be free. He must move on, to find another place to hide, to start another life. He leaves behind a legend, a whispered tale of a quiet cleaner who became a warrior, who saved the Ocean Majesty from destruction. The passengers will never forget him, his actions forever etched in their memories. He becomes a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the most ordinary person can be capable of extraordinary things, that even in the darkest of times, there is always a chance for redemption. The authorities search for him, eager to recognize his heroism, but he is nowhere to be found. He has vanished, leaving behind only a void and a legend. The authorities secure the ship and the world slowly returns to normal. Despite Ben's deliberate vanishing act, his heroism doesn't go entirely unacknowledged. Maria, knowing the truth of his sacrifice, feels a deep sense of gratitude and respect for the quiet cleaner who risked everything to save them all. She understands that he sought no reward, no recognition, only the satisfaction of knowing that he had done the right thing. She shares her knowledge of Ben's actions with a few other passengers who had witnessed his bravery firsthand. Colonel Davies, Sarah Jenkins, and even the Harding family, who had been deeply touched by his selflessness. Colonel Davies, a man of honor and integrity, recognizes Ben's extraordinary skills and his unwavering commitment to duty. He understands that Ben is a true warrior, a man who has seen the horrors of war and has dedicated his life to protecting the innocent. Sarah Jenkins, the journalist, is determined to tell Ben's story, to reveal the truth about the unassuming cleaner who became a hero. She knows that his story deserves to be heard, that it can inspire others to act with courage and compassion. The Harding family, forever changed by their experience on the Ocean Majesty, feel a deep sense of gratitude towards Ben. They realize that he saved their lives, that he gave them a second chance to reconnect with each other and to appreciate the things that truly matter. They share their stories with others, spreading the word about Ben's heroism. They describe his quiet demeanor, his unassuming presence, and his extraordinary skills. They paint a picture of a man who was far more than he seemed, a man who was a true hero in disguise. They know that they may never see Ben again, but they will never forget him. His actions will forever be etched in their memories, a reminder that even the most ordinary person can be capable of extraordinary things. Maria continues to work on the Ocean Majesty, keeping Ben's memory alive, sharing his story with new crew members and passengers. She becomes a guardian of his legacy, ensuring that his heroism is never forgotten. And so, the legend of Ben, the quiet cleaner who saved the Ocean Majesty, continues to grow, whispered from person to person, a testament to the power of courage, compassion, and selflessness. He may be gone, but his spirit lives on, inspiring others to act with bravery and to stand up for what is right. The final scene finds Ben on another ship, perhaps the Ocean Serenity or the Star Wanderer. It doesn't really matter, he's back to his old routine, mopping floors, cleaning toilets, blending seamlessly into the background. He's once again the unassuming cleaner, the ghost in the machine. But something is different. There's a subtle change in his demeanor, a newfound sense of purpose in his eyes. He's no longer simply seeking anonymity. He's embracing his role as a protector, guardian of the innocent. He still keeps to himself, avoiding attention, but he's more aware of his surroundings, more attuned to the potential dangers. He observes the other crew members, the passengers, the security personnel. Looking for any sign of trouble, he's no longer running from his past. He's accepting it, using it to guide him, to motivate him. He knows that he can never truly escape his past, that it will always be a part of him. But he can use it for good, to make a difference in the world. He catches Maria's name mentioned on a television in the crew mess, being interviewed about her experiences on the Ocean Majesty. A faint smile touches his lips. He is glad she is getting the recognition she deserves. One day, he witnesses a group of passengers harassing a young waitress. He steps in, quietly but firmly, defusing the situation with a few well-chosen words. The passengers back down, intimidated by his presence. The waitress looks at him with gratitude, recognizing something in his eyes, a hint of the warrior beneath the surface. She thanks him, her voice filled with admiration. Ben simply nods, his expression unreadable. He knows that he cannot reveal his true identity, that he must remain hidden. But he is content knowing that he has made a difference, that he has helped someone in need. As he continues his work, mopping the floors, cleaning the toilets, he knows that his past will always be with him, that he will always be ready to act when